On this Relearn packet, I'm going to do all of the section A's, and you can use the slider on the bottom of your screen to get to whichever sections you need to do to go over. So the first section here deals with lines and slopes and y-intercepts and so on and so forth. So what's the slope of the line 2y equals 4x minus 8? In order to judge the slope of a line, we always want to consider the line as being in the form y equals mx plus b, where m stands for slope. Remember, it is how you move. And b stands for the y-intercept, which is where you begin. Now the problem as I look at number one is it doesn't say y equals. The format says it's supposed to say y equals. It says 2y equals. So I need to get rid of that 2. And the way I'm going to do it is to do the opposite operation. This is like solving for y. So I'm going to divide by 2, because dividing by 2 is the opposite of multiplying by 2. I get y equals 2x minus 4. The question is, what is the slope? The slope is always the number in front of the x. The answer is 2. One of the most common mistakes that I find kids making, and in every class there's 1 or 2 on every test, that I ask, what's the slope? And they write 2x. And it's not 2x, it's just 2. Okay, number 2, what's the y-intercept of the line? And just like on the previous question, the problem is that it does not say y equals, but this time I need to do 2 things. First, I need to subtract the 2x. That gives me 3y, equals negative 2x plus 9. Then I divide by 3. The y-intercept is here at the end, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. AJ, I certainly hope you think that looks like a 3. Okay, next, which of the lines is parallel to y equals 3x minus 5? And there are 2 things you need to know in order to get this question correct. The first is that parallel lines have equal slopes. The second is that the slope of this line is 3. So I'm looking at these choices, and I want to know which of the lines has a slope of 3. Well, I know right away B does not. That has a slope of 1. And as I look at these other lines, the answer is going to work out to be C, because I'm going to add 3x to both sides, and I get y equals 3x plus 4, and then my slope, being in front of the x, is 3. If I did A, I would subtract 3x, and that would create a negative 3x for my slope. And over here, I would, after I minus the 5, I'm then going to end up dividing by negative 2, and 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3, so that will not work. All right, so we just finished the part 1, section A, all about slopes and y-intercepts. Remember, the key guiding template format principle that we work on throughout this is y equals mx plus b, and whether it be in the first one, or the second one, or the third one, what we're really getting at is, do you know how to get it into y equals mx plus b form? Once you do that, you'll be able to get it all right. All right, so now we go to our next part A. Hello? I don't have them today. All right, bye. Joe DeVita's not in this class, right? No. Yeah, he's in the other day. Okay. All right. So, next section A. Watch the video. It says, which ordered pair is a solution of the system of equations below? And what I notice is that the 4x's match up, but they do not have opposite signs. So I need to distribute a negative 1 to the bottom equation. That would give me the top equation stays 3y plus 4x equals 10. The bottom one, distributing that negative to all 3 terms, becomes negative 2y minus 4x equals negative 8. 3y and negative 2y is 1y. 10 minus 8 is 2. So we know that the y has to be 2. If I look at my 4 choices, the only choice that has a y of 2 is choice B. Now, I can also go back and find the x by saying, let's use the bottom equation. 2 times 2, what I did was I put in the 2 for y there, plus 4x equals 8. 4 plus 4x is 8 minus the 4. 4x is 4 divided by 4. X equals 1. Now, you guys who are in the room right now, what you should realize is every question we have done so far, this is for the advanced algebra accelerated kids, but they take the same class you take next year in high school. And every question that I have done so far, we have covered in Math 8.
Yeah, it looks like.
It's very much what you guys went over and did on your last test, what this relearn packet you guys are learning about. They do it a little bit harder, but it's the same concepts and the same material. So what you need to do is realize that the work you're doing right now and throughout this year is important for your success next year. The course you take next year at the high school, if you don't pass that course, you don't graduate. If you don't pass that Regents, you don't graduate. So it's extremely important, and every day that you come in and you do the work in our class is a day that you, it's a day that you are preparing for and getting yourself ready to be successful at the high school. And if you don't take it seriously, then there are, next year there would be some very serious consequences to that. Okay? Emily, what's the matter? No. When I'm all done. Right? Next up, what's the product of 2x minus 5 and x plus 4? To do that, we have to double distribute. Distribute the 2x, distribute the negative 5. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Always combinable in the middle here. Combining like terms. 2x squared plus 3x minus 20. Next one, find the larger of 2 consecutive integers so that the sum of twice the first and the second is 28. Well, there's 2 consecutive integers, so there's first consecutive integer, second consecutive integer. Remember, we said how important it was to set this up. Call the first one n. Since it says consecutive integer, the next one is n plus 1. If the first integer worked out to be 100, the next one would be 101. How do I get from 100 to 101? I go up 1, which is why I do n and n plus 1. Now it says here the sum of it says here the sum of twice the first. There's the first guy, it's n. So twice the first is 2n. And the second, so I have to add the second one, n plus 1 is 28. Combining like terms, 2n plus 1n is 3n, plus 1 is 28, minus 1, 3n is 27, divide by 3, n is 9. But here's the trick on this. If you put 9 as your answer, you're wrong, because it says find the larger of 2. The first one's 9, but the larger one is 10. Okay, next question. Which interval represents negative 2 is less than x is less than or equal to 2? And what we're really focusing on here is what the symbols are. It's a less than symbol, so it has to be a parenthesis on the left. It's a less than or equal to symbol, so it's a staple on the right. So I'm looking for parenthesis left, staple right. That is choice B. And then write an algebraic expression for 5 less than 3 times the number n. Remember the song that goes to Tom Joad. Last shall be first, first shall be last. Anytime you see less than, we know it's going to be minus. 3 times the number was last, it's got to be first. And the 5 was first, it's got to be last. 3n minus 5. So that is part 2. Again, algebraic questions in the part 1 of your work. All right, let's scroll this up a little bit. Okay, section A on part 3 is to graph these and label the solution set S. So, let's do that now. 3y minus 2x is greater than negative 9. Now, the couple of things that we're looking for here is y equals mx plus b form. We want to find slope y-intercept. We also have to remember, since it's an inequality, if it's a less than or greater than symbol, these guys, then the line is going to be a broken line. If it's a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, I actually said them in the reverse order. This is the greater than one. Less than or equal to, then it's going to be a solid line. And then we also shade above and below. If it's greater, we shade above. If it's less, we shade below. Okay, so add 2x. 3y is greater than 2x minus 9. Divide by 3. I get a slope of 2/3, a y-intercept of negative 3. So I go down to negative 3, up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3. Backside. And this is a strictly greater than, so it's going to be a broken line. So there's my broken line. And it is greater than, so a shade above. Next one is already in y equals mx plus b form. So slope is negative 2, the y-intercept is 3. We go up to 3, down 2 over 1. And you'll notice that this particular line is or equal to, is that little line underneath here? So that means this will be a solid line. And it is less than, so I shade below. And then it wants us to label the solution set S. So with a great big S, I go where the lines overlap. Okay? And that would be the graphing of my inequalities. A lot of times they ask for a point in the solution set. I always like to look at point 0, 0. You can choose any point where it's double shaded. Do not pick a point on the broken line. On the broken line is not included in the solution set. Okay, third part of the test gone over. Next up, part 4. Okay, and for part 4, we actually have 2 questions to do. So I'll do those right now. All right, first one up top. This question is going to be a substitution technique, because as I look for alignment here, I notice that my x's and y's are mixed. That's not aligned, so that means it's not elimination, so I'm going to go with substitution. The other thing that indicates substitution is that it says y equals. It could have said x equals. The bottom line is, it tells you what one variable is in terms of the other. So, as soon as I know substitution, I'm going to take the first equation, 3x minus 5, the equals, and the negative 26. In other words, everything I just underlined, I just copy over. The only thing that's going to happen here is the y is going to be traded in for what it equals. So instead of putting y, I'm going to put 2x plus 1. And then, the minute I get done doing that, I just go back to solve the way I learned very early in the year. And honestly, you guys learned a lot of when you took Math 8 in 7th grade. 3x minus 10x minus 5, distributing the negative 5, is equal to negative 26. 3x and negative 10x make negative 7x. That's the same side, same operation, combined like term situation, equals negative 26. Add 5, die. Negative 7x is negative 21. Divide by negative 7, x is 3. Now, one of the problems that we see when kids do these questions is they get the first variable and then they stop. We don't want you to stop. You need to go back and get the second variable. In this case, I use either equation, it doesn't matter, but the second one is so darn easy, I'm going to go with it. I substitute again. This time I put the 3 in for x. So y equals 2 times 3 plus 1, y equals 6 plus 1, which is better known as 7. Sometimes I like to ask the question, if they were graphed, what coordinates would they cross at? The answer to that would be 3, 7, because any point is x, y. The x is 3, the y is 7. 3, 7. Okay? next up. And I'm gonna kind of do this question on the side. Jamie and Jenny decide to buy some snacks at a football game. Jamie buys 3 pretzels and 2 sodas for $5.25. So 3 pretzels plus 2 sodas is $5.25. And Jenny buys 4 pretzels and 5 sodas for $8.75. 4 pretzels, 5 sodas, $8.75. Now what we're going to do, stop. Do you always say what, no matter what? Now what we're going to do is eliminate either variable, it doesn't matter which one. I'm gonna get rid of the p's. So I'm gonna put a 4 here, a 3 here, and I have to put a negative there as well. So, distributing the 4 across the top, I get 12p plus 8d equals 21.00. And on the bottom, I'm gonna get negative 12p minus 15d equals negative 26.25. Die. Negative 7d equals negative 5.25. Dividing by negative 7, just be careful of your negative signs here, die. D equals, and 7 goes into 525. How many times? I think it's 95. Let's see here, 7 times 70 is 490, and there's 35 left, oh, so it's 75, I'm sorry. So D is equal to 0.75. Now, I have to go back and I have to get the cost of a pretzel. So 3 pretzels plus 2 sodas was $5.25. So that means 3 pretzels plus 2 times 75 is $5.25. So that'd be 3 pretzels plus $1.50 is $5.25. I'm running out of room here, so I'm getting sloppy. Subtracting $1.50 from both sides, and I get 3 pretzels is $3.75. So I divide by 3, and a pretzel is $1.25. Okay, so again, this is an example of substitution in red and blue. In black and green is the example of elimination because they lined up with each other back at this stage. P's lined up, D's lined up, numbers lined up. And in the number 12, you needed to do a little algebraic conversion of the language, 3 pretzels and 2 sodas for $5.25, and so on. All right, so now we are done with, I think that was part 4 of the test. I think we still got one more part to do here. Yes, and this part will have this particular section will have 2 pieces to it. Okay, theater charges $10 for each adult ticket, $5 for each child ticket. Theater sold 130 tickets during the show. When we do this question, I think it makes a whole lot of sense to underline the important stuff. $10 each adult, $5 each ticket. Sold 130 tickets. Total money was $10.25. All right, so if every adult ticket costs $10 and every child ticket costs $5, then 10 times the adult plus 5 times the child has got to equal $1,025. And let's cross that off because we've used it. And here's where the advantage of underlining things comes into play. Because as I look up at this point, I ask myself, what didn't I use yet? And there's only one thing that's underlined that I didn't use, and that is the 130. And altogether, the 130 tickets were sold to both adults and children. So adults plus children is 130. Now I need to solve this, and this is in clearly an elimination type like we just did a minute ago. So I'm going to distribute a -5 so I can get rid of the C's. And I get 10A plus 5C, I'm just rewriting the first one here, is 1,025, and then on the bottom I distribute the -5, -5A minus 5C is -650. Right, that is 650, right? Yep. Die. 5A equals, and let's see, that would be 375, dividing by 5. A is, let's see, 5 goes into 375, 75 times. So there are 75 adult tickets sold, and then it says the adult plus the child is equal to 130. Adults was 75. So I take the 75 and I plug it in for A. Child is 55. So 55 children's tickets were sold as well. And that's how we do the second to last question on the test, number 13. And the tricky part of that question, the thing that we have to be aware of and taking into account, Emily, I'm sure you're still working on that sheet, right? Is the idea that the adult plus the child is equal to 130 tickets. That's the tricky part. Okay, last question we need to do for our Relearn packet. Mr. Lindquist enters a trout fishing contest. So maybe the first thing I'll do is turn around here and trout caught. And this will be fish, and this will be time. All right? So we're talking about hours like 4, 5, 6, etc. So I'm going to go by ones for the horizontal axis. Some people forget to put these numbers down here. You really do need to. Okay. This is 14 and this is 16. Just saying. And as far as the fish go, I'll do the same thing by 2. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, and so on. And now, let's graph each piece of information in this piecewise linear graph. For the first 4 hours, it catches 2 trout per hour. So for 4 hours, 2 trout per hour. First one, 2 trout. Second one, 2 trout. Third one, 2 trout. Fourth one, 2 trout. 2 trout per hour over the first 4 hours brings me up to 8 trout caught. That's perfect. He then takes an hour off to eat lunch and prepare for the next sessions. So I take 1 hour off. And an hour that I take off, I clearly don't catch anything. When he starts fishing, he catches 3 fish over the next 2 hours. So I'm going to have to go up 3 fish, 1, 2, 3, 2 hours. So there's my point. Then, for each of the last 2 hours, he catches 3 fish per hour. So 3 fish per hour for each of the last 2 hours. 3 fish per hour. So there's 2 fish and 2 fish again. There's my graph done. I always love to label this point here. So that meets at 9, 15. All right. So there's my graph, 9, 15. All set, all done. All right. Hopefully now you have a better feel and a better idea for what mistakes you might have made, and hopefully you will be able to correct those, and we won't have any issues anymore, and we kick butt and get the bad grade replaced.